I was very detailed in his examination of the first man called, industrial artist Hilliard Stone. He was questioned by Belli for nearly 3 hours. This after Stone told the prosecution that society has a right to rid itself of undesirable elements, just as a surgeon amputates for gangrene, but that he could judge Ruby on the evidence. Among other things, Belli asked if he read about Belli in the Saturday Evening Post, if he watches Perry Mason on television, if he saw the shooting of Oswald on television. Assistant Prosecutor Jim Bowie said Stone had witnessed only a TV program, not the crime itself. Without success, Belli demanded disqualification on the grounds the man had witnessed the crime Ruby is accused of. After heated exchanges, Judge Brown rebuked Belli and the prosecution, saying somebody's got to run this courtroom, and I'm going to.
Yes. Were you in the courtroom? I'd like to hear it from you.
I'm sorry, I don't really want to go into a lot of that sort of.
Stone was excused from jury duty as Belli exercised the first of his peremptory challenges, which enable him to discard any 15 people he does not want on the jury. Belli will continue extensive questioning of prospective jurors.
Certainly every juror has an equal vote. Certainly we should ask the same or similar questions of every juror. That's very important. How you examine every juror and how you use every challenge. We've got 15 challenges.
Well, I never heard of him questioning the juror 3 hours and never asking what is considered a legal question under the laws of the state of Texas. Appears to me this is an effort on his part to delay this as long as he can and get as long and much publicity as he can out of it. I don't know how long it's going to take in view of his delaying tactics.
At this hour, the defense has rejected 2 possible jurors through peremptory challenge. 1 juror was disqualified because he is against capital punishment. Tom Pettit, NBC News, Dallas.
Up like this tomorrow. This is being called a blue ribbon jury panel. All of those chosen so far have at least a high school education. Half of them have attended college. It is a young jury. The average age is below 35 years. The oldest member so far is only 46. All are Protestants, and half are members of the Baptist sect. All but 2 saw the slaying of Oswald on television. There are 2 views of this jury. Melvin Belli says it is unusual. Henry Wade says it is typical.
I think that the level of this jury here is much higher than the cross-section of intelligence of Dallas, and I don't say that disrespectfully. I saw more factual, hard-headed jurors here in this panel than I've ever seen in a jury in my life.
Is it unusual in any respect?
No, I think it's a typical jury. It's the type of jury we'd take in any death penalty case. Here's all right. This case, of course, is a little different from the ordinary run, but the type of jurors we usually take.
A special session is now set for Saturday to complete the panel. Both sides are saying the case will actually go to trial Monday morning. Charles Murphy, NBC News, Dallas-Fort Worth.
When the final 2 jurors were accepted, under Texas law, it is permissible for a substitute judge to step in for part of a trial. Judge Brown's illness created confusion nonetheless. Chief Defense Counsel Melvin Belli tried in vain to get completion of the jury postponed until Judge Brown could return. Belli put it this way.
He knows the case. Personally, I like him. He's a good judge. If this case is going to be tried, I'd like to have him tried.
But for today, at least, Judge J. Frank Wilson took over. His smile belies his stern courtroom manner. What happened inside was sketched by NBC artist Leo Hirschfield. Protracted arguments between defense and prosecution came to an abrupt end under the firm control of Judge Wilson, whose appearance was privately welcomed by the district attorney's office. The first time Belli leaped to his feet, Judge Wilson told him to sit down. When Belli continued to stand, Judge Wilson said in his rolling bass voice, "When the court says to take your seat, I intend for you to take your seat." Belli sat down. Then, in short order, a 57-year-old divorcee, Mrs. Eileen Shields, who works for the telephone company, became juror number 11. And early this afternoon, a 58-year-old widow, Mrs. Louise Malone, who works as an accountant, was sworn in as the 4th woman on the jury. All 12 have expressed belief in capital punishment. All but 1 saw the crime on television. Jack Ruby had seemed nearly forgotten during the examination of 162 people to pick the 12 white Protestant jurors who will decide his fate. As reporters hurried from the courtroom with news that the jury had been completed, among the many unanswered questions was, which judge will preside tomorrow?
9 o'clock in the morning, at which time I hope Judge Brown is here.
That's right. I'll be back in the morning at 9 o'clock. Be a good boy. Okay. Bye. Well, you see, you can't get any rest.
The 12 jury members posed for photographers and television cameras. The picture-taking session was authorized by Judge Brown. Here is some of what happened today, as sketched by NBC staff artist Leo Hirschfield. Only 3 witnesses were heard. Prosecution plans to complete opening testimony were thwarted by the extended cross-examination. Belli held the murder weapon in the air while questioning the detective who disarmed Ruby after the shooting of Oswald. Detective D.R. Archer, who helped subdue Ruby, testified he heard Ruby say, "I intended to shoot him 3 times." At this point, what appeared to be a very slight smile played on the lips of Jack Ruby. Another detective, Thomas McMillan, also testified that he heard Ruby say he had intended to fire 3 shots, and that Ruby told one police officer, "Somebody had to do it. You guys," meaning the police, "couldn't do it." Belli kept McMillan on the stand for several hours. He asked him to identify himself in news pictures of the killing. He asked why McMillan failed to mention some details in his official report. But the testimony that Ruby had said he intended to fire 3 times was crucial testimony for both sides.
If you would accept that testimony as true, and if you would accept that testimony as someone giving in his right mind, it would be an integral part of the state's case in proving murder with malice. They've got to have something like this. It looks to me like they're working awfully hard overtime, 4 times overtime to get it.
Well, I think they were telling the truth, and I don't think they were being coached. We have talked with them, but I hadn't talked to them before I put them on the stand to see what they're going to testify to.
Do you feel that the testimony they did give corroborated fully the case you're presenting here?
I think so. I think it helped quite a bit.
The prosecution now expects to wind up its testimony against Ruby tomorrow by showing films of Oswald being shot, and the defense expects to present its first witness, a psychiatrist. Tom Pettit, NBC News, Dallas. As going on behind the scenes, the crowd of spectators began building up, and national television networks began to prepare for live coverage of the verdict. The judge, Joe B. Brown, agreed today to permit that. This happened in the courtroom itself since 10 o'clock this morning. Judge Brown is giving the defense and prosecution every opportunity to discuss his instructions, which are now expected to go to... And his team of lawyers will review their case that Ruby was temporarily insane when he shot Oswald. Henry Wade and his staff will review their case that it was murder with malice, asked death in the electric chair, and under the jury, white, Protestant, 8 men, 4 women. Ultimately, they will decide many things. Ruby is guilty or innocent, whether he was insane at the time of shooting, and what his sentence will be if guilty, life, death. 1 o'clock this morning, Jack Ruby was taken back to jail to await preparation of the jury instructions, which still have not been read in open court.